On Patrol with the Suffolk County PBA is a dynamic podcast that brings together some of the most influential voices in the nation.
From union leaders and elected officials to law enforcement experts who explore the pressing issues shaping America.
Through thought-provoking conversations, we empower listeners to think critically about law enforcement, political policy, and the future of our society.
Available on Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, and all Suffolk PBA social media platforms. Tune in to On Patrol with the Suffolk County PBA.
Welcome to another episode of On Patrol with the Suffolk County PBA. I'm CJ Hutter, the treasurer of the PBA.
I'm Tanner Brandmeier, the Sergeant at Arms with the PBA.
And today we're excited to have Dominick Thorne on with us. Dominick is one of the legislators in Suffolk County Legislature, and he represents the 7th District.
I do, and I'm kind of excited to be here today. It's always great when I get to spend time with my friends in law enforcement.
Right,
Happy to have you.
Yeah, we're excited to have you on, and you say friends in law enforcement, and that's true. And a lot of people have gotten to know from watching our show. We do become very friendly with a lot of our local representatives.
True story.
Yep. And there are legitimate friendships there. We have a lot of goals in common. We're all looking out for what's best for our society and Suffolk County as a whole. And, it's great to hear you use that word friend.
I have a deep love for EMS. After, for PD, I did 27 years and currently am running ambulance service out in the Suffolk County region. And it amazes me that people don't see the police I see, right? It amazes me they don't see that, 90% of our police officers are EMTs and start emergency medical care. That never makes the news.
Right.
The thing that makes the news is that of, hundreds of thousands of interactions, 80 some odd times the camera wasn't on.
Right.
That's what makes the news.
Right.
And if you want to talk about police, let's talk about police. Let's talk about the EMTs and the patrol cars. Let's talk about our trained paramedics and our MedCat units. Let's talk about our COPE units that are in the street every day, increasing communication and helping our residents. Yes, they enforce our laws. That's their job. But at the end of the day, they do so much more. And that's the police I know.
Right.
That's the folks that I've done CPR with or held the little old lady's hand when she was afraid. That's the law enforcement I know and love.
Right. Doing anything we can to service the communities we work in. Right. It's not just fighting crime, even though that is typically thought of as our primary mission, but we're out there saving lives.
Absolutely.
Right? I started off my career in New York City, and when I came out to Suffolk County and realized that, like you said, about 97% of our membership are all EMTs also, I was blown away by that.
Right.
And it adds to the training we have. It adds to the services we can provide. And on top of all those EMTs, we have a lot of guys out there that are advanced life support certified as well.
Paramedics, ACLS trained. What amazes me is that people don't realize that the patrolmen in the street, and we talked about some specialized units, we talked about Marine Division and all the good things they do on Fire Island to provide both safety and medical care when necessary. But the patrolman in the street every day is out there helping people. They're out there answering simple questions or being approachable. These are the same folks you see in a bagel store on Sunday morning. These are your neighbors.
Right.
These are, I think I'm going to coin your phrase, or one of them, is that they are normal people doing extraordinary things every single day, not knowing if they're going to a skin knee or some knucklehead's going to take a shot at them.
Right.
Right. And these are the cops I know and love. Right. This is our Suffolk County cops. And they're amazing at every level, whether it's detective, Marine, COPE units, some of the commanding officers in the precinct. I work with Inspector Doherty rather well over in the 5th precinct. These are the folks that are genuinely concerned with the needs of the community. So that I wish people in the public would see that.
Right. It's important to have representatives that acknowledge the work that our police officers do in the street. Not only acknowledge it, but recognize it and advocate for them as you go to the horseshoe every week.
Well, we always have done that. Most recently, I think the EpiPens are finally in. We're almost on the verge of putting them in the cars. But here's epinephrine auto-injectors for allergic reactions. Where did I put them? In the police cars. Because they're the first on scene. These are men and women that are in a car that gets the call, and just by virtue of being on duty, can get to a call quickly.
Right.
Right? We have, we have these MedCat teams, which we're advocating for more of. because they are trained paramedics and they can get on scene within a few minutes, right? We're trying to increase them. But we have to continue to remember, I mean, since I've been in 3.5, almost 4 years, we've hired almost 900 police officers on the street.
Right.
That's the first mass hiring since we've been in years.
It's been a huge help because we got to historical lows, 10 years ago ish, and now we're building the ranks back up. We have a couple hundred more police officers than we did a few years ago, which it's a huge help because now that sector car isn't stacking up calls, right? There's more, every car is filled. The cops aren't tired because they're working too much overtime filling those cars.
Yep.
You get cops that are out there fully energized, ready to go and do the best they can for the community.
And you know what people don't understand is, they make all this overtime and they're making bundles of money. Listen, when somebody is out sick, that costs us money, right? When somebody is mentally shot, that costs us money because now we have to backfill that car. Another officer has been 6 precinct, perfect example. More calls than any other precinct per car. Right. And you've heard me talk about this since the day I came in pretty much. Right. Because I have a piece of the 6. They do a great job up there. But at the end of the day, we need to increase their numbers because when they're out with sickness, when they've run their body down too low, that costs the county money as well. And we want to make sure that our officers have that break in between. Right. Have time to take a breath, be with their family, maybe go to the park with their kids, simple things like that.
And the call volume is a huge factor because when you talk about the 6th precinct in particular, they have more calls per sector car than any other precinct in the county. Yep. Right. So when those calls are coming in, if it's a busy night, like say it's a Friday night, Saturday night, and there's 4 cars in the precinct because they're out of service processing arrests. Maybe there's another car at CPEP on a transport. Yep. So now you're down,
traffic lights, all sorts of things.
You're down a handful of cars. It affects public safety, response times to emergencies.
Of course it does. And people have to, when they call in, I get that they think their call is the most important call on Long Island, right? I need 50 sector cars here, right? But they have to understand that everything is prioritized. Right. It's prioritized by either the medical urgency or the criminal emergency that's currently in progress.
Right. Correct.
So the fact that somebody sold something out of your car the night before, yes, it's important to us because we want to keep stats and put resources where they need them. But that doesn't take priority over a person having a heart attack, a burglary in progress, a gun call. I think it's the 3rd. It's been extremely busy lately with everything going on out there.
Yeah, it's been very busy.
Priority is priority, and we have to prioritize calls. And by the way, every known entity does that every day, right?
Right.
The fire departments do it, ambulance companies do it, the Army and military does it. They prioritize what the bigger emergency is and then respond to that.
Right. And honestly, it's really any line of work, right? You're always going to have priorities and things that you focus on first before you worry about some outliers, no matter what line of work you're in, right? Even if you're a business owner, something might be more profitable than some other area, so you're going to focus on this. Right? It's the same concept. So, it's great to have legislators like you in the Horseshoe. It's great to feel the local support because, there are a lot of police departments in this country that don't feel that support from their local governments.
That's a shame. It's only 40 miles away or so that they're looking to put somebody in that is very anti-police. Scares the hell out of me.
Yeah.
But in this county, we're going to support and defend our police officers, not just today, not when it's populated, not when it's election time, but year round. We support them, we defend them, and we will always do that. They'll say, they'll point at isolated incidents. What about this? What about that? 1 out of thousands.
Right. It's cherry picking. It's cherry picking.
It's like that moronic thing with the cameras, and I'm sure it was all unintentional.
Right.
And I know a lot of folks in the press want to blow that up a little bit to get the headline, to really rile people up.
Right.
But out of hundreds of thousands of calls, 83 times.
Right.
Do I love the number? No. Listen, we always have to prepare to get better at our jobs every day. But 83 times or 80 some odd times over hundreds of thousands of responses is not terrible.
Right. And I'm glad you brought that up because we were just talking about that recently on an episode. And the way it was reported by certain outlets, the headline was very misleading because they just talk about failure. They make it sound like it's a failure in our cops, following through with a policy.
Right.
But in reality, the statistic is so insignificant that it should have been a success story. Because
listen, you're going to raise a brow on it, right? And we're going to investigate it, and we're going to make sure that we do better next time, because that's what we do in Suffolk County. We get better every day. But to make a headline out of this,
right?
And it was only the second annual report that they were taking these numbers from. So it's not like this has been going on for the last 10 years.
Right.
The cameras are fairly new. Our guys are getting used to them. So it's only going to get better and better and better. And try to make such a big concern over it, I think was ridiculous.
I think it's more about trying to divide the people from our police, and that's it. Because we have incredible law enforcement agencies throughout our county, whether it's you, the sheriff's department, certainly our Suffolk County District Attorney and his office and his investigators. Let's focus on what's important here.
Right.
You want to focus on what's important. How about the people that are laying in the street that have nowhere to go? How about the fentanyl crisis that this department itself, Suffolk Police, helps to educate people, right? How about, some of the single moms that are, barely scraping by? Let's talk about real issues. Let's talk about issues that make a difference here in Suffolk County. And I'm sure that somebody listens to the cast is going to throw a dig at me, whatever. A coward dies 1,000 deaths. What's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And I just think it's kind of silly to make such a big headline over that.
Yeah, thank you. We definitely appreciate you saying that publicly. And, one of the things, and you touched on it a little bit already, is you got legislation written up and you're making it possible now for our police officers to carry the EpiPens.
Yeah.
And the EpiPens are going to be a huge asset to our communities.
Yeah.
It's going to be great to have the cops be there on scene with this potentially life-saving narcotic or drug to be able to help kids out there who are having allergic reactions, adults too, obviously.
Sure.
But we've been carrying life-saving medications for years. We've been carrying Narcan for a very long time, and I think the EpiPen is way overdue.
I'm surprised it took so long. You probably know the history, but I passed a law locally under the Blown administration. They fought me a little bit, and I said, all right, we're going to do it anyway.
Right.
So we were able to get it through. He reluctantly signed it, but I had to change some state legislation. So I got a hold of Senator Murray, Assemblyman DeStefano. I know Senator Martinez jumped in on that too. And we passed it, and it was wording in their enabling legislation. But they changed it. So in a year, we were able to get it passed. And now the pens have been ordered. I believe they've been received at our central location, maybe out in Yaphank. I was just speaking to one of the chiefs of police today. And very soon we're going to roll them out of the cars. But you've had oxygen. That's a drug, by the way.
Right.
You've had Narcan. You've had automatic and external defibrillators for patients in cardiac arrest. Why? It seemed like a natural thing to do.
Right.
When I was doing it, I'm like, why is this so hard? I'm just trying to save lives.
Right.
And the legislation you're talking about is Geo's law, right? The state legislation that allowed certain counties to be able to pass legislation to carry the EpiPens in the cars.
Right. It was Geo's law, and I actually met Geo's mom, a lovely woman. When we hit some roadblocks, I looked her in the face and said, I'm not going to give up until this is done. And I made sure I made that promise, and I won't. Geo's law was, the young man that died in Nassau County because he didn't have an epinephrine pen handy. Because back on that day, too, they thought more about giving Benadryl versus epinephrine as a treatment for allergic reaction. We know that that's not true. Epinephrine is an amazing drug. The way that it works, it opens your airway. It opens up your bronchial tubes. It shuts down your capillary beds at your feet where you don't need it, yet builds up your blood pressure. It's just an amazing drug. It's an alpha beta drug I don't want to get into the weeds about it, but it's an amazing drug that saves lives. You hear often, he had minutes to live. When these folks are in a full anaphylaxis, they have seconds to live. Seconds.
That's a huge difference out here, especially people that are watching the show that might not be from out in Suffolk County and don't recognize the precincts and the sectors, the way they operate. And some of the sectors are really far apart. And it's not always easy for our volleys out there, our ambulance companies to get there so quickly. So a lot of times our cops are the first ones on scenes, and occasionally they're there significantly before the ambulance is able to get there. So this is huge for the community, for the residents.
It's wildly important. We have incredible, I said as the chair of Fire Rescue and Emergency Services for the county, we have incredible volunteers, but they still have to receive the call.
Right.
Where we receive the call at the same time, you call 911, you tell the terror operator or the call taker, I need an ambulance. And you hear, hold on. Boop, boop. Fire rescue, what's your emergency? They start giving medical care over the phone, but simultaneously that police car is getting the job. So they're already running before the tones have gone off. And it's a great triple check system we have right here in Suffolk County. And I got to tell you, I've been to other areas of the country. In this county, police, fire, EMS, we are one unit. Mm-hmm. Our job, one team, one purpose. We are going to save lives in this county. In this county, it's incredible. Not everybody gets to have that countrywide.
Right. And I'm glad you describe it as one team, one purpose, because our cops truly feel that way too. Like,
I know they do.
The vast majority of our cops relieve out of firehouses and ambulance companies, right? That's because we're so spread out and there's only 7 precincts.
Right.
Our guys aren't reporting to the precinct every day. You're going to a relief point. So we work very closely with these firemen, with these EMS crews, and we have lunches together. We have dinners together.
Yeah.
Right. It is one team, one purpose. We work hand in hand.
It's an incredible partnership we have throughout the county. We should all be thankful for it. That police have their job, we have our job, but at times our jobs drift into each other, right? So we have to make sure that we have that great working relationship to save the people of the county.
Right. And, having assets like that and the relationships you have with, you mentioned Senator Dean Murray, Assemblyman Joe DiStefano, Senator Monica Martinez, right? These statewide relationships that could help you get the changes you need in law to make this happen locally.
And what I'm very proud of myself is that in that particular law, I'm sponsoring a new board of service law. We can get into that in a minute. But it's bipartisan support on our legislature. The Epic bill, everybody said yes to. Everybody, Republicans and Democrats.
I love that about Suffolk County.
We some common sense is required. But they talk, and we see the discord in sometimes Washington and sometimes in Albany and things like that. But here in Suffolk County, we do work with the other side. I work with Legislator Donnelly on a regular basis.
Yeah, Tom's a great guy.
Good man. Good firefighter, good volunteer. Behind our police 100%, as I am. And listen, we're going to disagree. That's just human nature. That's why there's 18 of us. So the best possible plan for the county and for its residents, because we're the checkbook, we're the legislative, we're the oversight committee. We're responsible for the dollars.
Right.
So I've had the ability to work on it. Listen, there are times when we're going to holler at each other back and forth. But when it comes to common sense, that's what we do. And that's how we govern here in Suffolk County. And that's something I'm proud of since the Republicans have taken over about 3 years ago when I came on board. And we just have a great forward motion going on. And we're getting a lot of things handled.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, we see it all the time, day in and day out. We'll be at certain events or we'll have discussions, and it's Republicans and Democrats, everybody having peaceful conversations. Right. And we talk about that on this show all the time. Because if you look at some of the mainstream media, it would make you think that the two parties were always at war with each other.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be that way.
I mean, let me be clear. I am a very proud Republican, very proudly endorsed by the conservative parties. We definitely have the forward motion since the Republican caucus has taken over has been incredible. Mm-hmm. We've upgraded and beefed up our police department. We've upgraded and beefed up our detectives and all those spots. It's superior officers that have been knocked out. We've upgraded our communications. We've upgraded the Real Crime Center. We've put in, when they were going to use the money for political campaigns, we stepped up and said, no. That's not right. But we used it for ShotSpotter. right? To make sure that our neighborhoods have a rapid deployment of our police when somebody's firing a gun.
And that's a perfect example of making sure the money's going to the right places.
Right.
Because that is such a great tool for crime fighting. Because there's very often situations where shots might be fired on a street and the people in the neighborhood are scared to be the 911 caller. They don't want to have to be seen cooperating with the police, sadly. But the shot spotter that catches everything, that is such a huge asset to us.
Yep. I mean, we promised, CJ, we promised a long time ago that we're going to make it safer and more affordable. And we are doing that every single day in this county.
Yeah.
So we're very proud of the response of our law enforcement. Certainly our EMS and fire do a great job. And we have more of a team effort. In past, there was a lot of silos. This person in charge of this, they don't talk to this one. Now the police, the sheriff, the DA, they all talk to each other. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes us so effective.
Yeah. It's more efficient having that collaboration together. Each union, each department needs its own tools and resources. So it makes it a lot easier for you guys, I'm sure.
Well, it absolutely does. But, one of the things that happens in government is everybody wants their headline. My department did that. But we're more of a Team Suffolk approach. We are one entity. We're going to grow and succeed. And we fail, we're going to get up, dust off, and do it again. So
make it for the best for the residents of Suffolk County.
That's ultimately the goal. I've done very significant, and my claim to fame and or whatever you want to put talks about my support and love for the police department. And I will never back away from that. Never. And if one day I lose an election because I support the police, I'm going to go to bed that night and feel great because I know I've done the right thing by the.
And you said that since the beginning, since you ran for office the first time.
Day one. I never veer from that. I never will veer for that. But, we've done so many other great things. I've done $13 or $15 million in wastewater management in my district. Over 100 of acres of open space. Protecting our waters and keeping our streets from flooding down in Blue Point. We just did a repaving project and we scooped out 9,000 cubic yards out of their canal. There's more to me than just my love for the police. Am I very bold about that? Of course, because I am proud of our police. But at the end of the day, there is so much more going on a daily basis. The preservation of the Avery property. That's from the 1600s, that house. 11.5 acres. Talk about historic. This is the same family that paved Route 66. Same family that created Bugs Bunny. The same family that created the Avery labels that we all use every day. How important is that? So it's not just the emergency side of things. It's a day-to-day business that we have to be worried about.
Right. And I'm glad you bring up the road flooding down on the South Shore in the Bayport, Blue Point area. Now, that's in the confines of the 5th precinct. I always worked in the 7th precinct since I came out to Suffolk. But along the South Shore and the 7th, it was very similar. There was always road flooding issues. Right. And that's not just issues for the homeowners, the people that live in that block, but for emergency responses.
Absolutely.
I remember a time where I was trying to respond to a domestic incident down along the South Shore of Massac Beach, and my police vehicle got stuck in the road because the water flooding was so high. It was over the tires, the water flooding. Jeez. I could not respond to this emergency in progress because my car got stuck in the flooding.
Right.
So it's such a huge priority to make sure we could have safe transport on the roads.
And it's funny, not everything we do gets in the headlines. And if you hear just the headlines, you're kind of doing, maybe you want to consider something else. A lot of what we do, the day-to-day operation, taking care of our child protective services, taking care of our DPW department for the county of rails, making sure there's a park that's clean for kids to play in or woods for them to explore. That stuff that makes it in the news, but it happens every day.
Right.
Every day in this county, we are making quality of life decisions to make sure that we serve as best we can with within our budget that we have.
Right. Right.
That affects public safety as well. Those quality of life decisions that you guys make with the parks and cleaning up the roadways and fixing them, that affects our public safety, the way we respond to calls. If we have a massive flooding, how how we can get to certain places.
Right.
That's huge. People don't realize that.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the parks because I was always an active kid growing up. My kids right now are active. We go to the parks all the time.
Yeah, my girls are always in a park. Yeah.
Right. It's great. And, when the kids are active, when the kids have something to do, they're not getting into trouble.
Right.
Right. So it's good for the youth. It's good for the families in the neighborhood, but it eases the burden on the emergency responses.
Listen, if you're keeping a kid busy, if you're not, somebody else will. And the people that want to keep your kids busy is not a good option.
Correct.
Right? The kids that would, oh, I love you, I'll take care of you. Meanwhile, they were in a gang or they're trafficking them, which is something that the police department and all law enforcement community has really been cracking down on. But we also have to make sure in government that we give them that alternative.
Right.
You can come to a nice park and hang out and swing on the swings and, things like that. But think about, and I always resort back, you've heard me say about this single mom, because I grew up in a single parent welfare home, right? They need somewhere to bring their kids that doesn't cost them anything.
Right.
Right? They need to be able to walk to it in some scenarios. That is so widely important for the mental health development of our children that we have to do it. We absolutely have to do it, and we want to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know out by the Massac Beach area, Jimmy Mazzarella is desperately working on clearing up flooding issues, organized retreat from the waterfront, sewers, and things like that. He's killing it out there. Up north, in Memphis, Gordon Heights, we've already, last year, we put in the budget $1 million worth of feasibility study for each neighborhood.
Oh, wow.
To try to build that neighborhood up. We're spending a lot of money in North Bellport to help bring, I shouldn't say North Bellport, it's the greater Bellport area. But we're bringing up that community. We're doing, and there's still day-to-day operations, right? Like we just finished up quite a bit in the Blue Point community by Corey Beach down that way with drainage and roads and raising it where we needed to. Then you go over into Patchogue Village. They have a sewer plant. Talk about shovel ready. They are ready.
Right.
Hook up the pipe. They're good to go. So last year we did, I want to say $10 million worth of wastewater management. And we got another 100 houses off the cesspools to keep our waters clean. Right? We have one sole source of drinking. Mm-hmm. So it's wildly important. And, I know I'm on a PBA podcast, but it all kind of plays into each other.
100%.
Oh, yeah.
Right? All relate. All these quality of life issues end up relating to public safety as a whole. Every single one of them. And speaking of public safety, you have spent a lifetime working in public safety, right? You became a part of the volunteer fire department as a teenager, I believe,
yeah,
right?
When I was starting grade school, I was in Levittown at that time. And I was with the Levittown Fire Department Cadet Corps. And I was maybe 12, whatever it was. Then we moved out east and I got into the regular fire department and the ambulance side, became a emergency medical critical care technician and served I'm still serving today.
Right.
27 years, and I had a little break, and now I'm back doing it.
What drove you to that? At 12 years old, not many people that I know of are joined the fire department at 12 years old.
What's kind of cool is that I've always wanted to help people, right? Mm. And the fire department or the ambulance squads gave me that opportunity to do that, to help people. Then I was able to get elected. Now, on the ambulance, I am grateful and blessed to be able to help one patient at a time. In my job, I get to help whole neighborhoods at a time.
Right.
What an incredible job that is, to be able to change neighborhoods completely and give them the resources they need and the voice to be heard. Because often you'll hear from from the public, nobody's listening. Well, I'm listening. What do you got? But I get to help whole neighborhoods. What a great job that is, to be able to do that. Listen, they talk about salaries, things like that. If you did the math, I work about 80 hours a week. I'm just above minimum wage.
Yeah, right.
So the salary's not all that great. But it's great. It's such a blessing to be able to do this job every single day.
Right. You get to do it. It's a passion, right? It's something you could take great pride in. You set an example for your children because you have young kids at home still. Mm-hmm. And I don't think a lot of people realize
3 and 5.
Yeah, 3 and 5. Young babies practically.
That's where I'm proud to say I have zero authority. Don't even bother. Even the family dog is a girl. I have
really
2 young girls, beautiful daughters, and my wife. And at home, I just kind of comply. It's easier.
But it's a huge toll on the family and life at home as well when you work the sorts of hours you do, because we see you out there all the time. Anytime there's something going on in your legislative district in particular, you're there, right? And throughout the county, even if it's not in your legislative district, we often see you there.
I always thought it was important. One of the things that I didn't like about political figures in the past is, they'll say something like, you're so important to me. And then they're out the door in 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. Also, nobody elected my aides. I have an incredible staff. I have a great chief of staff. I have 2 legislative aides. They're amazing, but nobody elected them.
Right.
They elected me. So that's why I'm trying to make it a point to get out as much as humanly possible. Not always easy when you're hitting 3 or 4 things within an hour.
Right.
But
right.
I try to make it a point.
That's awesome that you give them credit too, because they're behind the scenes. They're doing a lot of the work to help you out and support you in making the decisions you make when you go into the horseshoe.
Listen, I have, Maria. I'm not going to give their last names because they'll choke me later. But Maria, Stephanie, and Joe over there. These guys work very hard. They're great constituent advocates. They do incredible. They give me when I'm looking at a body of water or something. All right, find me everything about this lake because I need to make a decision on where I need to go, right? And without them, we have countywide, we have great aides in our legislative offices. They're just amazing people, and they care as much as we do.
Right, and without them, there wouldn't be enough time in the day to do everything that you are expected to do by the constituents.
And then still write laws in the middle.
Right. Yeah, literally not enough time in the day. And I find it great, like Tanner pointed out, you're giving them a lot of credit, but you also give them a lot of opportunity to move on if they choose to, right? Yeah. I mean, you had the kid Hunter that was working for you for a while.
State trooper now.
Yep, great kid, and decided to go into a life of law enforcement. He's a state trooper.
Yeah, and I spoke to him. He came to visit a couple of weeks ago. It's funny you see the changeover after the academy.
Right.
But he is. He's a great guy, and I'm glad that we were able to give him a springboard.
Right.
I learned a long time ago. I was a manager of a major automobile repair club, Pep Boys. I was a service manager for them. And I'd go around to the different service departments, train them, and sometimes help the mechanics on fixing their cars. But you don't get anywhere by holding anybody back, right?
Right.
And hey, you want to move forward? Let me help you get there, right? And I'm hoping that things that he learned in my office will certainly help him to be a better law enforcement agent.
Right. Yeah, no, it's great to see examples like that being set in your office. So one of the things that we talk about often, and we've touched on a little bit, is our MedCat program and how we would love to see it expanded. And I know you've mentioned in the past, a part of your district is Fire Island, and you would love to see
a big chunk.
Yeah,
everything in town of Brookhaven and Fire Island is mine.
Right, and obviously there's an obstacle of getting services over to Fire Island from time to time as needed, right? And Marine Bureau does a great job, right? There's volunteer fire services that do a great job over there, but it would be great to see a little bit more of that police and MedCat coverage over there in Fire Island, right? Because they could do both, right? You could enforce the laws and you could provide the medical treatment as needed.
It's so wildly important. I can tell you that as a former ACLS provider, that early intervention when a patient is in cardiac or respiratory distress is so important. Within a few minutes, they can give some medications, get them stable, then put them on a boat or a helicopter to get them over there, right? So I am a big fan of MedCat. Again, no secret. We want to see the program expanded. I think that it's just gone 24 hours last time I heard.
Yes, it did.
So, and let me be clear. The police department is not in the emergency medical department. They're not in emergency medicine, but they have a component of emergency medicine. Again, part of one team, one purpose, right?
Right.
So these are highly trained paramedics. The highest level of training you can get in the pre-hospital environment in this state, working for us in Suffolk Police. We just went and gave them, I think it was last year, we just recognized them at police headquarters because we want to say thank you to them because they do a great job. But I am a big fan of increasing MedCat, right? Because they can be there, especially on Fire Island, where there's a transportation issue, there's a distance issue. You have to weigh how much time it takes to get that person in the ER. And with water in between,
it takes a while to get across. Yeah.
So we want to make sure that we have them get the resources. So we are going to continue to build them up. I speak in fact, myself and Legislator Kennedy speak about this all the time.
I know you spoke about having like MedCat on Fire Island, like. So in that case, in a boat or in a car?
So it has to be the vehicle. There's a little bit of a catch-22 that we have to comply with, and the vehicle, whatever it is, whether it be a boat or a car, has to be licensed as an EAV, emergency ambulance vehicle, right? It has to be certified by Department of Health. There's some things that have to happen. So cars can be over there, and then they can simply take the ride on the boat, right? Because if they start care, they just take the ride over the boat with whatever equipment they need. But you can also make a boat an EAV. You can make a bicycle an EAV.
Right.
But it has to have certain criteria. And the reason they do that is they don't want people running around with a blood pressure cuff saying it's an EAV. There's certain equipment you're required to have.
Makes sense. Right. Yeah, I never thought about that myself, about what type of vehicle mattered to make it such a...
Yeah. And what's in the vehicle, right? You need 24 4x4s. You need 5 5x9s. You need, X amount of non-rib breathing masks. You need X amount of nasal cannons. It's a requirement that you have to be considered that. And let's face it, we have to be climate controlled. These drugs are temperature sensitive. So we have to make sure we maintain that too.
Right. And, I'm glad you brought up, we only just recently got the 24-hour coverage with the MedCast unit. Right?
I heard it was very exciting.
Yeah. We finally got midnight units riding around on the MedCast team, which is great, because prior to having that midnight police officer assigned to MedCast, you were hoping that there might be a midnight guy on patrol. And we got to a point where I think we were down to no midnight cops on patrol that were MedCat certified.
Right.
So it was great to hear that we finally got a midnight guy over in MedCast.
And what's amazing too is that, I speak to Dr. Voswinkel. We all love Vos.
Yes.
And he's on the same page as I am. We speak regularly because he's Stony Brook's an independent doctor, but happens to be your police surgeon.
Right.
And runs Suffolk County Medical Control, I might add. So it's kind of integrated, but they are a separate thing. But he and I have had great conversations. We're on the same page with this. So we're going to continue to build him up.
Yeah, Dr. Voswinkel is great. He's such an asset to Suffolk County.
Good man.
He just worked on another one of our cops last week who was shot in the face.
Yeah, I went up to, after the cameras had passed, I went to go visit him in the hospital just to check on the guy. I don't want to give his town, but he's local town.
Right.
And I went to just, hey, we're here. Here's my cell phone number. If you need anything, give us a call. If anything becomes an obstacle or you feel like you're missing something, please call us.
Right.
Because we have to take care of our cops that have been hurt.
We appreciate that. I'm sure he greatly appreciates it. He's a tough kid. That's
I'll tell you what, you guys breed some amazing people that hold up to incredible injuries, There's one that I told him, please go to communication after this. Don't keep going back on the street.
Yeah, he is an impressive man. The police officer who was shot in the face.
Yeah, man.
For his attitude to be the way it was just a couple hours after being shot the way he was.
Yeah.
We got to see him in person. We got to speak to him. He is incredible and very impressive.
Yeah, and his family is wonderful people.
Yep.
Again, I visited with them in his room.
Wife and 3 children at home.
There's certain things I just don't want the media around and politicians and families for taking pictures.
Right.
But there's a time for that. And the time to just be there for our law enforcement, there should be no cameras around.
Right.
I'm here to see how you're doing. Right? Like you would visit anybody else.
Right. Exactly. And that goes back to how we were talking about earlier about friendship.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we've built these relationships over time with, as a team, right? Even the elected officials with all the services that are provided to the public. Mm-hmm. We are a team servicing the residents of Suffolk County.
Yeah. It's like any other resource, right?
Yep.
You want to make sure you protect the resources and big business. If you're a deli owner or a hot dog owner,
right.
You protect your resources. You make sure everything's working. Well, we protect our resources. One of our most precious resources is our people resource, and that's our law enforcement community and our fire and EMS.
Yeah, thank you.
It's important that you're always on top of what's going on in your district. I'm sure. I know how do you keep up with all the public safety issues within the district? And you're talking about resources and using those resources to get out there and provide help in different areas.
Well, I have a great relationship with the mayor, or both mayors, Bellport Mayor, Patchogue Village Mayor, Paul and Maureen. from being in the street all the time, people have my cell. Probably half the county has my cell phone number, right? But they call me and they're like, sorry to bother you about this, and this. And, then I inform them that you can call 852-COPS for that. That's not really, but call. Because then people say, we don't have enough police protection because nobody calls, and when you don't call the police, what happens? We don't see a need for a resource there because we don't have the stats to back it up.
Right.
So I try to tell people there are heat maps. And when something heats up, our men and women law enforcement focus in on it to put a stop to it right away. Right. But if they don't know about it, it's like how many times you've heard, we've heard all the time, there's a major pothole on Road X. What, you call anybody? No, I assumed you knew. Come on.
Right. It's database services. Yeah. Database services. We need the data to know where the services need to be.
Right. And then how do we advocate for more police officers in your neighborhood when there's been no crime or no reported crime in your neighborhood?
Right. So with all the work you've done and a lot of the help you've given to the public services to do everything we can, what's next on the docket for you? What do you have in mind? What other change would you like to see?
I would love to slow down, but I got too much to do yet. Most recently, we've had a rash, and it's not a new problem. But here's what happens. We have ambulance chases, we call them, right? Mm-hmm. And they have fire radios or fire scanners in their car. So a person's house is burning to the ground, and these gypsy board-up services start screaming into the area, blocking it up, interfering with our investigation, interfere with the fire, actually putting out the fire, and then on top of it, slipping a piece of paper and somebody saying, I'm with the fire department, sign this. Now picture this. You're sitting there watching everything you ever own go up in smoke. And these, I'm not going to be nice about it, sorry, but these vultures come in.
Because that's what they are.
And really just terrorize our consumers. So we have a board-up service law that has just passed the public hearing on it. It's going to go back to committee now, but we're going to make them get consumer license. We're going to make them make sure that they have a disclaimer given to the homeowner. Well, I'm not with the fire department. I'm not with a governmental agency. I'm just a board-up service that wants to do work. Mm-hmm. Then on top of it, if they pass the fire line, they're subject to penalty.
Right.
If they pass it twice, they're double subject, almost $1,000 and the possibility of a year in jail because now you've done it twice. We will make sure that we will protect our public. And this is a consumer protection law that we're going to make sure we get done. So, that's being worked on now. It's just, I wish I could tell you that we're almost done, but I'm not even close to being done on protecting our public and building it up.
Those people really take advantage of homeowners when they go through a traumatic event. When your house goes on fire, I can't imagine the first thing you're thinking about is how to board up your house and take care of everything. And they're looking to make a quick buck, but people are suffering. And
we had major board up companies, the people that do it right, come and testify in favor of my bill, in favor of this regulation we have to put in. Right. And when I wrote the law, I wrote it so the fire marshal can enforce it, the town code enforcement can enforce it, our consumer affairs can enforce it, our law enforcement can enforce it, just like I did with the lithium-ion batteries.
Right.
Right. Anybody with authority can enforce it because we're going to ensure and inform, protect our people as best as we can, as quickly as we can.
Right. And I'm glad you bring up, as soon as they cross the fire line, right, they could be held subject and liable. Because I liken that almost to what I've been hearing a lot about with HALO laws in certain areas, right? I know Nassau County just voted on a HALO law. I don't think it was enacted yet. I think it's being challenged. But I think the HALO laws are a great idea. I think it's there to not only protect the police officers or the EMS workers and firefighters, but it's also going to protect the public because they shouldn't be unnecessarily getting too close to a dangerous situation.
I agree. And, I have been looking at Nassau's HALO law. I am working on drafting it. That's not something you draft overnight.
Right.
But we are looking very serious at that. Listen. There's freedom of the press. There's freedom to use your camera on your phone anywhere you want to go. But you need to be a couple of feet back.
Right.
I have seen it where the camera's right in the rescuer's face, right in the cop's face. In a dangerous situation. Dude, back up. You can take just as good video from a foot or two back.
Right.
And
Zooms work very well now, too.
God forbid they get, and we all have cameras.
Right.
The courts, listen, I don't want anybody to feel like their voice not heard or not to feel secure when interacting with law enforcement or anybody else. And neither do you guys.
Right, of course.
But we do want you safe.
Right.
And I can't tell you the amount of times they're in an emergency scene where they are very possibly going to get hurt. Not because we're going to do it, because you're going to step on a 220 line that's coming off a house. You're going to get a piece of debris on you. You're going to get hit by a car or be in the middle of we've had so many gun calls where they're firing at our police. Do you think it should be up close?
Yeah, right.
Back up. Let our law enforcement do their job, and thank God they do. And as far as I'm concerned, our law enforcement does an outstanding job with controlling their emotions. It's a very emotional job, but still enforcing our laws.
Right.
They do a great job on that. So you want to film? Listen, welcome to America. Feel free. But you're going to do it from a safe distance.
Right.
So we're looking at that out here as well.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that you're on the same page as I am, because 19 years in police experience, I can tell you how many times I've had to repeatedly tell the same person to back up, give us some space. We're trying to do something, maybe it's CPR and the panicked mother keeps wanting to go check on her baby herself, but we're trying to do it. Just give us some space.
Right. Let us do our jobs.
We're not telling you can't watch. We're not telling you can't record. Just give us the space to do the job the right way.
And it's, it's dangerous. It's dangerous to the public. It's dangerous to the person with the camera in their hand. Again, I'll be very clear. You have a right to do it.
Right.
But you're going to do it from a safe distance, because my job is to protect everybody, even the people I may not like.
Right.
It's my job to protect them, and I'm going to do that.
Yeah, it's great to hear. I'm glad we're on the same page with that.
We absolutely are.
Yeah. So, going forward, we appreciate the relationship we've built. We appreciate that open line of communication we always have. We're very happy to be able to partner up with you in a lot of events. Just recently, you want to recognize the crossing guards in the county, right?
I talk about unsung heroes, right?
Yeah, the crossing guards do so much for roadway safety.
So I make it a
people
point.
never think of them.
During the school year, I make it a point to spend a couple of minutes to drop my kids at school, right? And walk them over to the building. I make it a point for that. It's daddy-daughter time. It's very important to me. But what I also see is when it's pouring rain, that cross guard's out there.
Right.
When it's freezing sleet, they're out there. When it's 200 degrees outside, a little bit of an exaggeration.
Yeah, right.
But you know what I mean. When it's steaming outside, they're out there. They do such a great job. We have a lot of civilians attached to the police department, our civilian operators, our clerks, all those other ones. We want to make sure that we recognize them. So the PBA was kind enough to supply some food. Myself and others and the PBA members went out, gave a certificate. Thank you. The post office got nothing on them, rain or sleet or thick of night.
Right.
These guys are out there no matter what. And I'm always impressed with that. So I want to make it a point to say thank you to these hardworking public safety workers.
Yeah, no, we thought that was a great idea. Like you said, they're civilian members of the police department. They're not even our members, but we do work with them.
Right.
And they do assist in roadway safety, and they help make our jobs easier. So when you asked us to partner up and recognize these heroes, we were happy to do it.
Well, I'm thankful for the relationship we have, that I can tell us, it's not, hello, Mr. PBA, or hello, Mr. Legislator. It's, CJ, it's Dominick.
Right.
Here's what's going on.
Right.
And let's see what we can do. But I also have the same relationship with the precinct inspectors, too.
Right.
Dave, Inspector, I'm hearing a lot of problems down on XYZ Street. I'm getting a lot of complaints in here. Can you maybe beef up patrols in the area? And they immediately respond. But what's cool is I know when the Santa car goes out there, they're genuinely looking. They're not taking a 90 mile an hour trip down the street and then back out. They're looking for the bad guys.
Right.
And we will continue to prosecute our bad guys. Right. We have a DA that will find a way.
Yeah.
If you're breaking the law, to prosecute you.
Yeah. Our cops out here in Suffolk take tremendous pride in the jobs they're doing.
No, I see it.
And, Tanner and I both started off in New York City, and we both were fairly active cops in New York City. We did our jobs, but it's different when you're policing where you live. And a lot of our members do live in the precincts that they're working in. So
And you know
it
what?
gives
It's
that just
different,
that
too.
added weight, a little bit of added weight.
It's different when our law enforcement agents know that the government is behind them.
Yes,
100%. That's a
100%.
Big
Big part of
difference.
it.
You know,
Yeah,
there are so
100%.
many people defund this, defund that. Defund whoever's giving you that information. It's not a good idea, right?
Yeah, right.
At the
They're
end
not
of the
looking
day.
out for your well-being.
I don't know what, send a social worker. Listen, I'm not putting out social workers, but there's a place for them and there's a place for our law enforcement community. And I don't necessarily think those two should be intertwined so closely.
Right.
And here we have our police officers that are trained. Part of our EMS training is psychological first aid. And we have a outstanding center up at CPAP, up at Stony Brook. Listen, and I'll talk right to the camera. If you're from another area, you think it's a good idea to defend the cops, I would suggest you fortify your home. Because without these guys, it's not a threat. Let me be very clear before somebody takes me to court. But without the law enforcement agents, we would have our anarchy. And we have great cops that actually care about neighborhoods and care about each other and care about their neighbors. Again, I separated earlier about the bagel store analogy.
Right.
Every morning they get up like everybody else and puts on their work clothing, which is their uniform. And, you never know what you're going to face. But you do it with pride. You do it with dignity, and the police do a great job. So
Our law enforcement is able to do that because of representatives like yourself who stick up for us, who defend us nonstop when we're doing the right thing, and our officers are doing the right thing out there. So we appreciate all the support we get from you in your office.
Oh, see that? It got me all choked up.
That's what I was aiming for.
Yeah.
Pardon me. But listen, we don't do it for political purposes. And they say, well, you're over there for endorsements, yada, yada. When I ran the first time, I didn't have a law enforcement endorsement.
Right.
But I said to you in that room, I've always been law enforcement back to blue. I'll always be it, whether you endorse me or not. You need people that want to see safer neighborhoods. There are still neighborhoods where you're afraid to send your mother to the store to get milk because she might get accosted.
Mm-hmm.
Out here in Suffolk County, we don't need that nonsense, and we're not going to allow it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for your friendship. And, we appreciate you coming on the show today and talking to us and talking to all our viewers out there about all the issues that matter to Suffolk County.
It matters to everybody. And what people forget is they always say, I'm a taxpayer. What do you think I am?
Yeah, right.
Well, my kids are in the neighborhood. So am I. And the only thing that I think, one of the things that make me who I am today is, I serve all the people all the time, whether it's neighborhoods where I don't have a vote in sight or it's neighborhoods that are coming well during election times for me. I am blessed to have great relationships with pastors and bishops, and different entities. I can go anywhere in my district and they know I'm there to try to help. And that's a blessing for me. Well, because put away the political nonsense and do your job. It's a great day.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And I think that's a great way to close out the show because it basically summarizes everything we've been saying here. We all live here. We love the people around here, and we want to keep this county the way we grew up for our children and the next generations.
I couldn't agree with you more, and you and I will do it together. All of us will do it together.
Yeah, it's great.
And thank you to the Suffolk County Police. Amazing people.
Thank you, Dom.
Thank you, Dom.
Appreciate everything you do.
Thanks for joining us.
Always good to see us.
Yep.